Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
Meet Jen and Shelby.
Why can't I get it?
They don't want their last names used. They are friends, colleagues, gun enthusiasts.
What gun or guns do you own now?
I have a Ruger and a Rossi, both rifles.
Both from Long Island, New York City adjacent, both professionals. Jen has her permit but is yet to buy a handgun.
And why do you want to buy a handgun?
I've been wanting to buy one for years. I'm also someone that lives alone for a couple of years now, so probably for safety mostly, but I do enjoy coming to the ranges and shooting.
She's trying them out, seeing which one is the best fit for her. Shelby, like many Americans, made the decision to arm up during the pandemic.
Do you feel safer having a gun?
I do,
Why?
because I'm not sure the chaos is over, and I just feel like a lot of people have guns, and it would be good to have. I'm a single female. I live on my own, and why not protect myself?
The number of both state and national instant criminal background checks, a check required before one can purchase a gun, and a rough indicator of how many people are either purchasing or possibly being issued a gun permit, surged during the pandemic, from under 30 million to nearly 40 million. Today, in states like New York, officials say there's a backlog of gun permit applications, with more applying every day.
The licensing agencies are inundated with applications. During COVID, the applications quadrupled.
Even in a state like New York, where gun ownership is highly regulated, business at South Shore Sportsman, never better.
40% of my clientele comes from New York City.
From New York City?
Yep.
The 5 boroughs?
Yep.
All 5?
Yep. Staten Island to the Bronx.
And what are they buying?
Handguns if they have a license, like the gentleman that just left, or shotguns.
Right.
By checking
Nothing
the
in the chamber.
For many, the constant headlines about crime drives them to gun ownership. For others, it's the mass shootings and the fear of not having a gun if everyone else does.
What effect do all these shootings and major events have on your business?
In the immediate aftermath, in most states, it would lead to an increase in sales because everybody looks at the news, and although that's a terrible event, they say the same thing. There's going to be a new law.
So there's a rush to get in to
There's
buy a gun.
a rush to get the stuff that they think they're going to lose.
So who out there is buying guns and why? We met a lot of people in the medical profession, retirees, housewives, all of them gun users. And it's not just concerns about the pandemic or about crime that is driving gun sales. It all becomes a bit of a feedback loop. The more they see violence, the more they're concerned they are that everyone else around them is armed, the more they feel they too need a gun.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
In Washington, D.C., police are searching for suspects in back-to-back shootings Friday night that left 8 people wounded, including a 12-year-old girl.
We're looking for a black sedan, possibly a Mercedes, who witnesses say drove through the block and indiscriminately fired upon individuals here in LeBron.
In Texas, authorities are investigating a shooting north of the town of Jasper that sent at least 9 teens to the hospital Sunday morning. It happened just after midnight at a home during an after-prom party. According to police, the victims range in age from 15 to 19 years old. The investigation there is ongoing. And on Monday, the so-called Tennessee Three, the lawmakers who drew national attention after protesting for stricter gun laws in the wake of Nashville's deadly school shooting last month, are set to meet with President Biden to talk about the gun crisis in America.
I think that we need emergency response because we're facing a crisis situation, and that in states like ours, we need help from our national leaders.
It is also to think about, beyond executive orders, what other authority exists within departments and agencies that the president is ultimately responsible for.
According to a recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation, worry and fear about gun violence are widespread in the United States, adding more than 1 in 5 adults has had a family member killed by a gun, including suicide. I'm Shelley Malashi reporting.
Like the Advocate channel on Facebook for the best way to get updates on stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
For some, they're a source of school pride. But for tribal nations, they're the reason behind a decades-long battle. And this week, a win. New York State education officials voted unanimously to ban their public schools from using Indigenous team names, logos, and mascots. They have until the fall of 2024 to eliminate such imagery or risk losing state funding.
It's long overdue. I mean, this latest push is just the newest push, but we've had community members fighting for these changes over the last several decades.
Brian Polite is chairman of New York's Shinnecock Nation. Chiefs, warriors, Indians. Polite joins the National Congress of American Indians in calling such mascots inappropriate stereotypes that dehumanize Native people.
A lot of these mascots and logos are Hollywood depictions on what they think Native Americans should look like. And other times it's sensitive items and cultural references that we don't want paraded around on the football field.
The ban is likely to affect schools throughout New York, prompting some pushback. Long Island's Massapequa Public Schools out with this letter this week defending their chief mascot as historic and informing parents that they are investigating all options with legal counsel. Also on Long Island, Patrick Pizzarelli, who leads Nassau County's interscholastic sports. He predicts future funding issues if athletic departments are forced to pay for rebranding their programs, uniforms, even their sporting venues.
I understand, and I get it, okay? But you got to give these districts some money. You can't just expect them to do it, and maybe even more time. You know, right now, by the end of 25, I believe, it's supposed to at least be started. I'm not sure it has to be done by then. But, you know, you got to help them because you don't want to hurt other kids to fix the problem.
The head of the Tonawanda City Schools near Buffalo also bracing for the cost of compliance.
We're a district that's going to comply, and we're going to do very good work working with our stakeholders, our community, and again, most importantly, the students, in determining what our next steps are.
Renaming won't be necessary for schools that bear the name of an Indigenous tribe. Educators are also still allowed to use Indigenous imagery in their curriculum.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. Here's our number 1 story of the day. Take a look.
We need to not let politicians and judges try to make it illegal.
It's a striking victory for abortion rights advocates in the continuing battle over abortion. A stay from the Supreme Court late Friday means medication abortion drugs, specifically the drug mifepristone, will remain available in the U.S. without restrictions in states where abortion is legal. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris applauded the High Court's decision, with the VP saying, "Our administration will not waver in our commitment to preserving access to essential medication and defending the FDA's ability to approve safe and effective drugs." While their votes were not disclosed, Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito made their dissent public. CNN Supreme Court reporter Ariane DeVoe explained more on Alito's thinking.
He said that he did not think that these patients would be harmed for now if the restrictions were left in place because the appeals process is going to continue.
The case now goes back to the Fifth Circuit Federal Appeals Court, with a 3-judge panel set to hold a hearing on May 17th and then issue a decision sometime after.
We will have to make sure that they don't do the wrong thing, and we will do everything we can to preserve the right of women to receive this drug. They deserve it. They need it.
I'm Shelley Malashi reporting.
Thanks for watching the Advocate channel's top stories. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow, like, and share, or check out advocatechannel.com for even more stories that advocate for you.